Faith.
And I'm Steve.
And this is your friendly neighborhood home inspector. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great.
Now, we just got off the phone with somebody. We were talking about issues with their roof, and you just got a house that had some roof issues that you were worried about. So roofs are all we've been talking about, it seems like, today.
Yep. As you call it, a roof's the hat of the house.
Terrible joke on my end.
Well, so I guess what we want to talk about is home inspectors' perspectives on how we view roofs, right?
Yeah.
So when I'm with my clients, I always have the same little story or saying. When I'm with my clients, I always tell them the same little thing. I say, a home inspector is looking at a roof trying to figure out, is the roof performing its intended function? When a roofer looks at a roof, they're thinking, what color do you want the new roof to be? And when insurance companies look at roofs, they're thinking, do I want to insure this hot mess? So we all have a sort of different viewpoint on the very same system that we're looking at.
Now, what I got from that is that all roofs have some sort of damage, no matter how old or new is that. Would you say that's accurate, or am I interpreting that
Well,
wrong?
I imagine even a brand new roof is going to have some what we call footfall traffic just from the installation process. So, I mean, a roof is made up of thousands of individual shingles, and each shingle has 3, 4, or 5 nails in it. So there's tens of thousands of opportunities to have something installed incorrectly or make a mistake. And the whole system has to work together in what are really adverse conditions. Very heavy winds, extremely hot sun, and very, very cold winters. So, a roof surface gets well north of 140 degrees in the middle of summer.
That's incredibly hot.
Yeah, we wear gloves if we walk up a roof in the summertime if we're on the side facing the sun, because if you put your hand on the roof, it can get you pretty fast.
Oof. So, what are some of the things, like when you're an inspector looking at a roof, what are the biggest pitfalls that you see with roofs?
Well, I'm looking for physical damage and storm damage. So, the roof inspection is a very small time period of our inspection. We may be on a roof for less than 10 minutes because we're at a house for 3 hours. So you've got to cover lots and lots of components. So compare that to a specific roof inspection. A roof inspector from an insurance company may be on the roof for half an hour or 40 minutes looking just at that system. So what we do is we get on the roof and we're looking over it to see if there's any overt signs of damage or deterioration. If we see anything that we think needs to be looked at further or analyzed for a cost of repair, we want to let our clients know, look, we see enough here in this short time period that you have to have someone else give you an estimate of what it's going to cost to repair this, maybe even replace it.
What's the most common repair you see on roofs?
Well, that's a good question. So, as a roof ages, the granular material, that's the gravel that's there to protect the chemicals that are holding the shingle together. It's sort of like sunscreen. Those will wear and fall off. And so one of the things I see that causes a lot of damage is called footfall traffic, and that's people walking on roofs when they're hot and allowing their feet to twist ever so slightly as they walk across the roof. That'll remove this granular material, and it rolls down into the gutter and it leaves, you can actually see little footprints. So you've got to be careful when you're walking on the roof, and a lot of that damage will happen from subsequent professionals going up on the roof, installing satellite dishes or servicing the roof, and sometimes during the installation process if they're doing it on a really hot day. Personally, if I had perfect day to install a roof, it'd be a day when it's probably about 55 degrees outside. That way my shingles aren't baking in the sun as they're installing them.
And you aren't baking in the sun either.
Yeah, if the workers are comfortable. But, the reality is we install roofs almost every day of the year. I've seen guys when it's 100 degrees out putting roofs on, and I've seen them, with leaf blowers blowing the snow off the decking to put the roof on.
It's been 100 degrees this week, and a person down the street from our office is getting a new roof installed.
Yep, yeah, and those guys had big brimmed hats on, and they were out there just working away. I mean, I was very impressed.
Do not envy them that task.
No.
So those little granulars that we were talking about that you said that fall off during footfall traffic, I've seen those just in gutters of homes, like just from the rain washing them down. So those will just fall off naturally over time, won't they?
Yeah, sometimes people use that as an indication of how old the roof is, but as time passes, those eventually become loose and roll off, and that's part of the natural aging process.
And what are those doing exactly for the roof?
So the UV light from the sun is very intense, and so they're literally keeping the ultraviolet light from hitting the it's a petroleum-based product underneath, and so if the sun can hit it, it'll break it down, and then eventually it dries it up, and then it cracks, and the shingle becomes brittle. So we want to try to keep those as intact as possible.
So they're acting as sort of like a sunscreen?
Yeah, like we said, they're sunscreen for the roof. Now, you could try to shade your roof with trees and keep the sun off it, but then your roof may not dry out quick enough and you'll get moss growing on it, and that's going to cause a different problem. So, if you had the shade of a tree 40 feet from your roof, that's probably a sweet spot. But if you don't want tree branches rubbing on your roof, thinking, oh, I'm keeping the sun off my roof. Like, yeah, but now you're rubbing the granular material off because of the tree branches on the roof.
Also, you got more squirrels coming into your house, I feel like.
Yeah, you have squirrels everywhere.
So, what's the moss issue? What does that cause?
Well, I think sometimes I'll see leaf debris build up in valleys, and the moss will grow really thick on roofs, and I can't help but think that that's not helping anything, because it's going to keep the shingle wet persistently. Consequently, the decking might start to become damp over time, and the thick moss will even start to work its way into the shingle and lift it up. So you want to keep the heavy debris from leaf litter and moss off our roof. It was a bigger problem with wooden roofs, but we're talking about wood shingle roofs, but we're talking about like standard asphalt roofs right now. Yeah,
is it at all a problem on like copper or terracotta roofs?
Well, not on copper roofs, because I've never seen it build up on it. It's probably
antibacterial.
Brass is, but I don't know what copper might be. But remember, we were out the other day and you were asking about the discoloration on the brown roofs. That's a bacteria that's airborne. It doesn't damage a roof terribly bad, but it discolors it. So there's some companies here in Springfield that I think it's called Shingle Bright. They'll spray probably copper sulfate, but they'll spray that on the shingles and let it activate, and that'll kill these bacteria. So it makes your roof look newer. It makes it look really nice.
Mm-hmm. So the copper sulfate is probably in the copper shingles itself, so it prevents that mold from forming.
Oh, you're talking about copper roofs?
Yes, the copper. Yes.
The copper.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's probably a chemical reaction. I don't really know, but I do know that beneath a B vent coming out of a roof, that's galvanized steel. I've noticed that the shingles are always clean and beneath that. So the rainwater is hitting the galvanized metal, and it must be changing the pH and keeping that bacteria and mold from growing just where the water's flowing off of the B vent.
Huh. Now, here's my favorite type of question. What is the weirdest or worst roof you've ever seen?
Well, you can have 2 layers of shingles are typically allowed, not recommended, but allowed. But I was on an old house that was very steep, and I think the saving grace was that it was a steep roof. Not only did it have the original cedar roof, it had 6 more layers of roof, so there's a total of 7 layers of roof. I started counting them, and I'm like, I had to start over and make sure I was getting it right. I think the roof is probably like 1.5 inches thick, and I told them there were 7, and everyone's just shaking their head. I said, when you take all these roofs off, your house will probably grow 3 inches because of all the weight that's off the house.
Oh, they're beating me out. I only have 3-4 layers of shingles?
I think you've got 3, so.
One of mine's cedar, though, so I get fancy roofs.
You have a fancy roof underneath all those others. You have every roof that was ever put on your house is all still there.
Quite an achievement. It's sentimental at this point.
Yeah.
Any fun roof facts for me before we close out?
I guess the only fun roof fact is, there's different types. There's gable roofs, hip roofs, Mansfield roofs, shed roofs, and down the street from us, they're building a brand new Andy's custard store, and I was all excited because they're putting a butterfly roof on that building. And I thought, oh, cool, someone's giving a nod to the butterfly roof.
Didn't you want to send them an appreciation letter for the butterfly
roof?
Yeah,
I'll write a little letter and go buy some custard there and say thanks for supporting butterfly roofs.
Butterfly Roof Association
Yes,
Appreciation
right.
Society or something like that.
Yep.
Silly. Okay, well, I'm Faith.
And I'm Steve.
Thanks for listening to our podcast. Have a great rest of your day.
This has been a Morawski Inspections podcast. If you want to know more about our services, visit our website at morawskiinspections.com.